And so, ladies and gentlemen, this Abdul El Sayed and Hasan Piker situation is blowing up in Democrats' faces, and I must say, it is a joy to watch because you would have to be Stevie Wonder out here to not see what they were trying to do and how horribly it's all going wrong right now. Abdul El Sayed thought he could ride Hasan Piker's radical left base through the primary, use that energy to springboard himself into the general election, and then somehow charm moderates and independents into believing he's actually moderate and just wants to fight for the working class. Well, that strategy isn't working. And the problem for El Sayed is that he knows it. Democrats know it. And now the whole thing is starting to tear them apart in public. And so, as always, smash that like button if you enjoy the content. For more, subscribe to the channel. Let's start right here.
I am done. So don't any reporter ask me again about Hasan Piker. It's not what November is about. Republicans are trying to make it. They're trying to divide us. And we got to stop letting them try to divide us. I don't agree with Hasan Piker on a lot of stuff. And I really don't agree with him on some of the woman things he said. And I'm still trying to figure out, is it the reason he exercises and looks buff is why he has so many followers? But having said that, I want to talk to you for a minute about what November is about.
This is all too rich. Democrats are all over the media on one hand, professing that they're a big tent party and that there's room for everyone. But now they're upset because Republicans are calling out their BS while Democrats desperately try to make this seem insignificant. But Hasan Piker isn't just some streamer. No, he's an influencer with a massive audience who has made plenty of hateful, racist, and anti-American statements, right? Now, you could argue that he says some of this, stuff for clicks and shock value, but that's not even the point. The point is, El Sayed basically recruited this guy to be one of his loudest surrogates during the primary. It was a full-on political bromance. Piker helped energize the exact radical left base El Sayed needed to win, but now that the political heat is turning up and El Sayed has to appeal to moderates and independents in a general election, folks, suddenly he wants everyone to pretend Hasan Piker was never that important in the first place. And yeah, that's a problem. You don't get to use somebody when they're politically useful and then act like that relationship never mattered once the baggage becomes inconvenient.
Now, the controversial relationship between the two entered new territory this week after Piker said this.
If Jews in America keep putting this idea out there that they are singularly invested in Israel, eventually someone's going to come around and take action, not against the state of Israel, mind you, but against American Jews. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. Okay? Not even remotely. Are you kidding me? No. I'm proud of everything this community did. I'm proud of all the work that we put in to make sure that he won the primary. And I will continue being proud when he inevitably wins the general.
I had a question for you about some criticism you've been taking in recent days from other Democrats in the state. Congressman Scholten has been critical of your association with Hasan Piker. The Attorney General Nessel said today that she believed that you were perhaps making excuses for domestic terrorism. Are you going to speak with these folks? How do you respond to that criticism?
Yeah, I've had a number of conversations with folks across my party and elsewhere. I think the question right now is how do we get together to beat Donald Trump? If folks are serious about Trump being the existential threat that I know he is, then I think it is critical for all of us to come together to beat his chosen lackey here in Michigan. I think there's a narrative that he's trying to push that somehow we're disunited. There is no poll justification for that, no evidence for that. And I think there are a few people who are still nursing wounds or grievances from the primary.
Total deflection. That's what you just saw, followed by Democrats' default setting. It kind of just kicks in. I don't even think they recognize it now. Trump is evil. Trump is an existential threat. Trump must be stopped. That whole thing. And this is how you know things are going awful for Democrats right now, because this race is truly in play. And let's be honest, that should not even be the reality when you're defending a Senate seat in a state Democrats have dominated for decades, folks. It has been more than 30 plus years since a Republican has won a U.S. Senate race in Michigan. That's a signal telling you how weak Abdul El-Sayed is as the Democrat candidate. And that is exactly why Democrats like Debbie Dingell are getting fed up, because behind closed doors, they know they have a problem. They know this nomination created a political mess, but instead of answering for it, they want everybody to stop asking questions. And that's why this only keeps getting worse.
So I'm a reporter. Why can't I ask you about Hasan Piker when he has campaigned with Senate candidate Abdul El-Sayed?
Look, I'll tell you what I'm tired of. I'm really worried about health care. I'm worried about reversing the SNAP cuts. I'm worried about hunger. I'm worried about affordability of groceries and gasoline and housing and a broken healthcare system. And quite frankly, everywhere I've gone for the last 10 days, someone throws a camera in my face or a phone in my face and asks me questions. I don't agree with them. I've made it very clear. And not only do I agree Israel's got a right to exist, but as I got more into him, just, looking at things he said, there are a lot of things that deeply disturb me, but he's not on the ballot. And I think people are trying to distract about what's at stake and what happens and what the consequences are after November. And we have a lot of other candidates in Michigan who are running in very competitive seats.
And there it is. The quiet part out loud. There are Dems all over this country running races, but Abdul El-Sayed made the decision to bring Hasan Piker into his political orbit and make him a part of the campaign. That is very different from simply sitting down for an interview, folks. Plenty of Democrats have gone on Piker's stream. I mean, Ilhan Omar, AOC, Zohran Mamdani, just to ring off a few, and they fall into the same socialist progressive wing he does. But that's not the same thing as actively embracing someone as a part of your campaign and having them right there with you when you win the Democratic primary. Abdul saw a political advantage, yes, in having Hasan Piker around at that moment. He wanted access to his audience, that energy, that radical left base. But now that things are going south, he wants everybody to suddenly pretend we all suffer from amnesia. And here's why it matters. It gives voters a direct line into understanding exactly what El-Sayed is willing to do to win an election. When Hasan Piker was useful, Abdul embraced him. Bromance, fist bumping. Now that he's become a political liability, Abdul wants to minimize the relationship and act like it was never that serious. It was just a fling, one night stand. And of course he does, because, the political course has changed. Apparently, the story's changed too.
I think for a lot of us who've been watching politics over the last 10 years, frankly, before that, there's always this question of how or why are people so angry at all of it? And I think it's because too often when you hear about politics, you hear politics covered as sport, right? Like Hasan Piker is a streamer in California. You would think if you turned on any media that this whole campaign is about a streamer in California. That's not what this campaign has ever been about. This campaign has always been about the ability to afford your groceries in Michigan, the ability to send your kid to a good school in Michigan, the ability to see a doctor in Michigan. Those are the questions I'm interested in answering and asking. So that's what we've been doing across this campaign. And so, I'm less interested in going to the sort of tabloid version of our politics where we cover this as who's in, who's out, who's up, who's down, who's talking to who. And I'm a lot more interested in talking to the people in the state who've had a bum deal because of Donald Trump and the politics that Mike Rogers has been the epitome of for a very long time.
And so Abdul thinks he's the Obi-Wan Kenobi of politicians now. Don't try and hit us with some bootleg Jedi mind trick to deflect, distract, and avoid the actual issue. And then he wants to come off like he has this deep, all-knowing understanding of why Americans are frustrated with political leaders. We already know why people are frustrated. People are tired of government not doing its job. They're tired of politicians moving too slowly, ignoring the people who elected them, and forgetting who put them in those seats in the first place. We all understand that, but none of that has anything to do with the decisions that you made, Abdul. That's the part he wants to distract from. The issue isn't some broad philosophical conversation about why Americans distrust government. The issue is the political choices Abdul El-Sayed made when Hasan Piker was useful to him, and why he suddenly wants everyone to stop talking about those choices now.
Hasan Piker is that guy, that terrible roommate, that radioactive presence in your life. And Abdul el-Sayed wants to cut him off. There's only really one way to do, which is to evict him. And that's very difficult to do when he got you there, when he found the apartment, when he put the deposit down, when he paid the security deposit. Hasan Piker is Abdul Sayed. Mike Rogers calls him their running mates, and Mike Rogers is right in Michigan. But Piker is also a running mate for every Democrat who's gotten close to the DSA, who's DSA adjacent. They all have Hasan Piker problems. And the only way you get out of that, and I don't even know if it works, is to go in front of the cameras, look it straight in the camera and say, I denounce Hasan Piker. He is a radical anti-Semite, addicted to violent rhetoric of the sort that is destroying the United States. I made a mistake having anything to do with him. I was fooled. I am bad. I'm done. That's how you get it done.
Facts. That part is not up for debate, but the chances of Abdul el-Sayed actually changing course, I find that pretty slim because Hasan Piker is the horse he rode in on. That's exactly why Sayed would rather deflect now and pretend this whole campaign is simply about fighting for working class Americans. That's his old shtick, right? He wants to talk about taxing the rich. He wants to talk about Medicare for all, men competing in women's sports. He's fine with it. Medical transition procedures for minors, he defends those positions too. And politically, that serves a purpose. It allows him to keep the progressive base energized, happy, satisfied, while presenting himself to everyone else as nothing more than a working class populace who just wants to make life more affordable. That's the strategy, folks. He gets to keep the left happy on the ideological issues while selling moderates and independents the economic message. In his mind, it kills two birds with one stone, I bet. The problem is Republicans are turning up the heat and voters are starting to see the whole picture.
Tyrus, I have a friend in Florida. Yeah, retired CIA operative type of guy.
Awesome.
And he mentors young men.
Cool.
And the first thing he does is say, I want you to show me who your best 3 friends are and who you hang out with the most, and I'll tell you where you're going to be in 5 years.
Okay.
That's how I feel.
Harold, Jesse, and...
You're going to be fine.
Okay, thank you.
But el-Sayed pretends that he wasn't hanging around with Piker the whole time in order to get this primary and only now wants to moderate.
No, look, and if it walks like a duck, it's an anti-Semitic duck. That's what it... It makes me laugh. When I was a kid coming up, I remember when David Duke ran for office, right? And anyone who voted for David Duke didn't be like, well, I disagree on a couple of things with him, but his policy on economics, you were a white supremacist or white supremacist if you're with him. These guys are with him because he benefits them. So everything he stands for, you had no problem being in a party with him. You had no problem him going up and getting all that attention. This is who they are. They can't cover it up. That I get why they're nervous because they're afraid that the American people might not have the stomach for what they are. But everything that they've said they are, Piker's telling the truth. He's literally the side chick going, no, he was at my house last night. Nope, he was there. I have the photos. He's just telling his wife that, the American people, so she won't be so mad. But this is who they are. And when he gets in, they've done this over and over again. It's just, if the people of Michigan vote for him, they also have to own it. Mm-hmm. If you vote for him, you're anti-Semitic too. You are, because that's who you support. Just like if David Duke, you voted for David Duke, yep. you got to own everything about him. Just like with Trump, they love to tell everybody when you voted for Trump, everything that he is, you embody. This is who he is. Do the people of Michigan have the stomach for it? I don't think they do.
There it is. That is the truth. I mean, friendships, families, coworkers. People have literally severed ties with people they once claimed to care deeply about simply because they found out they voted for and support President Trump. Because apparently if you voted for Trump, you must be a racist, you must hate black people, you must hate immigrants, you must be perfectly fine with electing a felon. We heard all of it, right? And so yes, now Democrats want to change the rules and move the goalposts because the shoe's on the other foot. And I absolutely love watching this civil war take place because they brought it on themselves.
First of all, you could have watched him yesterday where he said, I love America. Second of all, a politician standing next to somebody doesn't mean that they've endorsed every single thing that they've said. And third of all, he was responding to somebody who was one of his comments. And yes, he was being extremely inappropriate. You don't need to endorse every single thing that somebody says in order to stand next to them. The point is that he's encouraging people to love America and specifically using the word de-radicalization every single day. I'm sick of people getting this wrong. Yeah,
we know you love Hasan Piker. You're taking this very personally. I want to move on. I want to move on.
The issue here is that the 30,000 people who watch him every day, plus the millions later that watch the clips, they know that he loves America. They know that he would.
Does he love America more than China?
I can't finish. Just let me finish. He's often rage baiting and reading comments that other people have sent to him, and then they clip it and take it out of context. The reason that audience was upset was because they knew that he was trying to placate people who deliberately took him out of context. He stopped explaining himself. This is and it's really not even just the Republicans doing it. These are the establishment Democrats who know what they're doing is wrong, but they're doing it anyways because they're trying to get people like myself who are Jewish to be afraid of the DSA candidates. That's why this is happening. If you want to get it right and you want to get the truth, then actually do the research and look at him in context.
I've watched Hasan Piker a lot.
So wait, her logic is you just need to listen to a little bit more Hasan Piker, then you'll get it. Here's what makes what Democrats saying about stop asking me about Hasan Piker routine, this whole routine, even weaker. Democrats have been through this exact kind of political controversy before, folks. Let's go back to 2008 with Barack Hussein Obama when he was running for president, and his longtime pastor, Reverend Jeremiah Wright, became a massive political liability because of inflammatory things Wright had said. And understand something, Wright wasn't some fair weather streamer who just popped on the scene to help win an election. Obama spoke a couple of times about how the man was his pastor for almost 20 years. Married Barack and Michelle, baptized their children. I mean, this was a deeply personal relationship. At first, Obama tried to explain the relationship, but when Wright went out publicly and doubled down, Obama realized that he wasn't going to be able to Jedi mind trick the American people into pretending the controversy didn't exist. And so what did he do? He stood in front of the cameras and said Wright's comments were divisive and destructive. And Obama eventually even left the church altogether. That was a 20-year relationship, folks. And that situation matters, not because of what Obama did that helped him win the election. No, it matters because it tells you just how far off the reservation Democrats have gone, folks. How desperate they have become. They've given the keys to the radical left and they are not getting them back. And now they want to normalize anti-American language and call it compassion. But those are my thoughts in the update. Now I want to hear from you. Drop your comments down below. I appreciate when you guys chime in. Don't forget to smash that like button if you enjoy the content. For more, subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.